Audi is now known around the world for luxury, speed, and cutting-edge engineering. Its four-ring logo is seen in showrooms, on highways, and across international racetracks. But the story behind this billion-dollar brand is not as smooth as its design suggests. The company went through betrayal, financial collapse, 2 world wars, and came close to disappearing entirely. At the center is one man, a stubborn engineer whose vision refused to die even when his company did. How did a brand born from failure claw its way back to dominate the world stage? The answer is bolder and far more incredible than most people imagine. From blacksmith's son to engineer. August Horch was born on October 12, 1868, in the small German town of Winningen. His father worked as a blacksmith, a demanding trade that required discipline and physical strength. Growing up in this environment, Horch developed not only respect for craftsmanship, but also an early fascination with tools and mechanical processes. Following in his father's footsteps, Horch began his own apprenticeship as a blacksmith. While he proved capable in the trade, his curiosity went beyond hammer and anvil. The late 19th century was a period of rapid change in Germany, where the Industrial Revolution was reshaping cities and industries. Railroads expanded, steel production grew, and new machines became part of everyday life. Horch found himself drawn toward these innovations, eager to understand engines and the science behind them. Seeking greater knowledge, Horch enrolled at Mittweida Technical College. The institution was known for producing skilled engineers at a time when Germany was racing to match Britain and France in industrial progress. At Mittweida, he studied mechanical engineering, gaining exposure to engines, machinery, and modern production methods. The defining moment of his early career came when he joined Benz and CA in Mannheim, working directly under Carl Benz. At the time, Benz was already recognized as the father of the automobile, having developed the first practical motor car. For Horch, this was a rare opportunity to witness the birth of an entirely new industry. He learned firsthand how engines could be adapted from stationary machines into vehicles, and he absorbed the entrepreneurial spirit that surrounded Benz's work. But working under Carl Benz was only the beginning. Horch wanted his own vision on wheels. The first dream. In 1899, August Horch made the decisive move that would define the next decade of his life. He founded a Horch and C Motorwagenwerk in Cologne, establishing his own company to build automobiles. At a time when cars were still considered experimental luxuries for the wealthy, this was a bold step. Horch financed the company with help from private investors and former business associates, using connections he had made during his time working for Carl Benz. His ambition was to produce vehicles that were more advanced than what most competitors could offer. By 1901, his workshop had begun producing its first cars. These early Horch models quickly stood out. They were not mass-produced machines, but carefully engineered vehicles designed with innovation in mind. Horch incorporated high-strength steel for engine parts, used shaft-driven transmissions instead of chains, and introduced advanced multi-speed gearboxes, features that made his cars more reliable and powerful than many others on the market. Customers noticed the difference, and his reputation as a skilled engineer grew. Expansion soon followed. In 1902, the company moved operations to Reichenbach to accommodate larger production needs. 2 years later, it relocated again to Zwickau, a city that would remain tied to Audi's history for decades to come. Each move reflected Horch's determination to transform his business into a serious player in the German automotive industry. Yet success came with challenges. Horch's commitment to uncompromising quality also meant high production costs. He often favored innovation over financial caution, a stance that frustrated his investors. They wanted profitability and stability, while Horch wanted technical excellence and prestige. The tension between his vision and their expectations steadily grew. By 1909, the conflict reached its breaking point. The board of directors, tired of disputes over spending, forced Horch out of the very company he had created. It was not only a professional loss, but also a personal humiliation. To make matters worse, a court ruling prevented him from using the Horch name for any new automobile venture. The founder had been stripped of both his company and his identity in the industry he helped shape. This crushing betrayal could have ended his career entirely. Instead, it drove Horch to create something even greater. Audi is born. In 1909, shortly after being forced out of his own company, August Horch founded a new enterprise in Zwickau. Legally barred from using his surname in the automotive business, he sought an alternative that would still carry his identity. The solution came through a friend's suggestion, translating Horch, which means listen, in German, into Latin. The result was Audi Automobilwerke GmbH. It was a clever way to preserve his name while establishing a fresh brand. The new company wasted no time in producing its first models. In 1910, Audi released the Type A, followed a year later by the Type B. These cars reflected Horch's determination to build machines that stood out in design and performance. Both models featured four-cylinder engines with smooth gear transitions, high ground clearance for rough roads, and lightweight construction that improved speed and handling. They were sleek, powerful, and more refined than many of their rivals. These features signaled that Audi would not be a follower, but a company aiming for the upper tier of the market. From the start, Audi cultivated an image of precision and sportiness. Horch wanted his cars to be more than practical vehicles. One of the most effective strategies Audi adopted during these years was its entry into motorsport. Between 1911 and 1914, the company competed in the Austrian Alpine Run, a grueling long-distance rally across the Alps. Audi's cars repeatedly achieved victories in this demanding event, proving their reliability and engineering strength under harsh conditions. Each success not only boosted the company's reputation, but also attracted wealthy clients who associated the brand with performance and endurance. For Horch, racing was not about sport alone. It was a matter of survival in a crowded market where prestige determined sales. The Alpine triumphs transformed Audi from a newcomer into a respected competitor, giving the young company the recognition it needed. But the glory days of racing would be cut short by the thunder of war. War, crisis, and the limits of ambition. When World War I broke out in 1914, Audi, like every other German manufacturer, was pulled into the war effort. Civilian car production gave way to military needs, and Audi shifted its focus to building vehicles for the army. The factory in Zwickau was adapted to produce trucks and military transport, a dramatic change from the luxury cars that had defined its early years. This diversion kept the company active, but it also tied its fate to the uncertain outcome of the conflict. The war left Germany devastated. After the armistice in 1918, the Treaty of Versailles imposed severe restrictions on the country's industry. Automobile companies struggled to adapt in an economy marked by shortages, heavy reparations, and a crumbling currency. For a brand like Audi, which had relied on expensive, high-quality cars, the post-war conditions were disastrous. Ordinary citizens could not afford new vehicles, and wealthy buyers had become scarce. The early 1920s brought even more turmoil with the collapse of the German mark during hyperinflation. Prices skyrocketed daily, and companies found it nearly impossible to operate. Audi, already a small manufacturer compared to larger competitors, faced mounting pressure as demand for its vehicles fell sharply. Production slowed, and the company struggled to stay afloat. By 1920, economic instability and internal restructuring following World War I made it increasingly difficult for smaller manufacturers like Audi to stay afloat. Facing financial pressure and limited control over company decisions, Horch formally left Audi's management. Though he no longer directed its future, his influence was still recognized when he was appointed an honorary professor of mechanical engineering. It was a fitting acknowledgement of his contributions to German automotive engineering, even as the company he founded struggled to survive. Yet Audi's struggles were far from over. By the 1930s, survival meant joining forces. 4 rings, 1 union. By the early 1930s, the German automotive industry was under pressure from the global economic depression. Many small car manufacturers were collapsing, and merging became the only way to survive. In 1932, 4 companies, Audi, Horch, DKW, and Wanderer, came together to form Auto Union AG, based in Chemnitz. The new logo, 4 interlocked rings, represented this alliance. Each brand had its own role. Horch, the original company founded by August Horch, became the group's luxury division. Audi, also founded by Horch after his departure from the first company, continued to focus on sporty and technically advanced vehicles. DKW specialized in motorcycles and compact cars for the mass market. Wanderer filled the middle ground, producing reliable mid-range vehicles. Although August Horch had created 2 of these 4 companies, he did not return to manage any part of Auto Union. He was invited to the signing ceremony as a guest of honor, but his role was entirely symbolic. Still, his vision lived on. The union of the 4 companies marked the start of a new chapter in German automotive history, one that would eventually become the modern Audi we know today. Beyond consumer cars, Auto Union gained global attention through motorsport. In the mid-1930s, Its Silver Arrow racing cars became icons of speed and engineering. Competing directly against Mercedes-Benz, Auto Union developed powerful rear-engine machines that dominated European racing circuits. Their victories, however, were not purely sporting triumphs. The Nazi government heavily sponsored both Auto Union and Mercedes, using racing successes as tools of propaganda to promote German technological superiority. As the regime moved toward war, the company's role shifted again. Auto Union factories, including the major plant in Zwickau, were redirected to military production. Passenger cars gave way to military vehicles, engines, and other equipment required for the war effort. This transformation tied Auto Union tightly to the German war machine. By the final years of World War II, the cost of this involvement became devastating. Allied bombing raids targeted industrial centers, and Auto Union's plants were heavily damaged. The once proud group that had risen so quickly now faced destruction on the battlefield of global conflict. Auto Union had given Audi international recognition, but it came at the price of being entangled in one of history's darkest chapters: collapse and near oblivion. At the end of World War II, Auto Union was in total collapse. The city of Zwickau, where Audi's factories were located, fell under Soviet control. The damage from the war was severe. Soviet forces stripped the factories clean. Machinery was taken apart and shipped to the Soviet Union as war reparations. What was left behind was barely usable. Car production in the region came to a complete stop. With its main production site destroyed and in enemy hands, Auto Union could no longer function as a company. In East Germany, the ruins of the Zwickau factory were brought under government control and continued to produce vehicles, but not under the Audi name. The brand that August Horch had built vanished, buried by war, occupation, and the political divide that followed. Still, some Auto Union leaders refused to give up. A group of executives who had escaped to West Germany began planning a comeback. In 1949, with help from the Bavarian state government and financial support, they restarted Auto Union in Ingolstadt, Bavaria. But they faced a serious problem. They had no factory, no access to Audi's past assets, and no way to relaunch the Audi brand. It had no recognition in the West, and no resources behind it. Instead, the revived Auto Union focused on its only practical option, DKW. This was the company's small vehicle brand, known for its motorcycles and compact two-stroke cars. These affordable vehicles helped the company stay alive during the early years of West Germany's economic recovery. But they lacked power, style, and status. Audi remained out of sight, remembered only by a few as a defunct name from before the war. It was no longer a competitor and looked unlikely to return, especially in a growing industry led by Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW. Audi's story seemed finished until a surprising buyer stepped in: Volkswagen. Volkswagen steps in. In 1964, Volkswagen acquired Auto Union from Daimler-Benz. For Volkswagen, the purchase was more than an expansion. It secured the Ingolstadt facility, giving VW a modern production hub in Bavaria. For Auto Union, it meant stability under a powerful parent company. This acquisition created the conditions for a revival of a long-forgotten name. The decisive move came in 1965, when Volkswagen revived the Audi brand with the launch of the F103 series. Unlike VW's utilitarian Beetle, the new Audi models were positioned as refined and technically advanced. This marked the beginning of a clear strategy. Audi would become Volkswagen's answer to drivers seeking premium engineering without the expense of a Mercedes-Benz. Volkswagen further strengthened this path by merging Auto Union with NSU in 1969. The merger brought in NSU's rotary engine technology and advanced engineering facilities in Neckarsulm. Although the rotary engine did not become a lasting success, the technical know-how and infrastructure significantly upgraded Audi's capabilities. By the 1970s, Audi was no longer producing cheap DKW models. Instead, the brand moved into the middle and upper segments of the market. This shift allowed Audi to carve out a space between Volkswagen's mass-market cars and the luxury dominance of Mercedes and BMW. Much of this transformation was driven by Ludwig Krauss, a visionary engineer who had previously worked at Mercedes. Under his leadership, Audi introduced front-wheel drive as standard, focused on lighter construction, and emphasized safety. These choices gave Audi an identity as a company willing to challenge conventions. The real breakthrough came in 1980 with the launch of the Audi Quattro. It was the first sports coupe to use permanent all-wheel drive, and it revolutionized rally racing. Audi's victories on the world stage gave the brand global visibility and a reputation for innovation. Through Volkswagen's strategic support and Audi's engineering ambition, a fading company was transformed into a credible competitor in the luxury car market. The groundwork was laid for Audi to evolve into a billion-dollar brand. With its rebirth complete, the next decades would see Audi turn innovation into global wealth. From survival to billion-dollar dominance. After leaving his company in 1920, August Horch lived out his life away from direct industry involvement. On February 3, 1951, he died in Münchberg, West Germany, at the age of 82. He did not live to witness the worldwide success of the company he founded, but his vision of technical excellence remained the guiding force behind Audi's modern identity. The 1990s marked the decisive shift that transformed Audi from a respected but regional brand into a global luxury powerhouse. With the adoption of the slogan, Vorsprung durch Technik, advancement through technology, Audi made innovation its official brand DNA. New product lines defined this era. The A4, A6, and A8 sedans reintroduced Audi as a luxury contender in core global markets. The TT Coupe, launched in the late 1990s, gave the brand an instantly recognizable design icon, while the RS high-performance division showcased its engineering boldness. In the 2000s, Audi expanded further with the Q-Series SUVs, which tapped into the fastest-growing segment of the automotive market. This comprehensive portfolio gave Audi credibility across all luxury categories. Financially, the results were dramatic. Audi's annual sales rose from around 300,000 vehicles in 1990 to over 1.8 million by the 2010s. Revenue climbed into the tens of billions, making Audi one of the most profitable divisions within the Volkswagen Group. Today, Audi's presence spans more than 100 countries, supported by a vast dealer network and localized production strategies that allow the company to tailor vehicles to different regions. Audi's market capitalization currently stands at approximately $82.99 billion, underlining its status as one of the most valuable automotive brands in the world. In the 21st century, Audi has continued to evolve. It launched the e-tron series to compete in the electric vehicle market, invested heavily in autonomous driving technology, and introduced its signature fully digital cockpit interface. These efforts reflect Audi's goal to remain competitive in a changing automotive landscape shaped by sustainability and software. From August Horch's small workshop in 1899 to a billion-dollar global empire, Audi's rise has been shaped by engineering, adaptability, and vision. Horch never lived to witness this transformation, but the four rings he inspired now represent one of the most advanced and valuable car brands in the world, proof that a bold idea can outlast even the greatest obstacles. What do you think about the Audi brand? Tell us in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.